Well, hello, everybody. I'm here with Mike Lutz, director of Omega House, which has been a very important part of our community, offering valuable service to those who are in the end of life, and to make that transition as holy and as comfortable as possible. And so Mike will talk a little bit about how Omega House started, what they're doing now, and some plans they have for the future. So welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Scott. I think maybe the best way to start would be just kind of going over, we've been in this spot now we've been open for 16 years, but the process really started well before that. So let's go back to like 1999 when a group of folks came together. There was always this need in the community where people who didn't have the resources to stay at home when they were entering hospice, and they didn't want to really go to a nursing home either. So the thought of a residential home where those folks could give them an option, I guess, as to where they could stay was kind of the background on Omega House and what it was about. So in 99, these folks got together and performed or created a grassroots drive to put Omega House to reality. And then that kind of started in the early 2000s. There was a capital campaign that lasted about 3 years. They needed to raise about $1.5 million, and they didn't want to put the house up until they had the entire house funded. So that actually worked out for them, and the house was built in the 2004-05 time period. And we opened with 6 rooms at the time. We've now expanded to 8, and over that time we've seen cared for well over 700 families in those 16 years that we've been open. So our primary mission is obviously caring for those that have been diagnosed with a terminally ill situation. They've entered hospice, and that's our primary mission, to care for the terminally ill. Having said that, we do offer other programs for the community that are related to end-of-life care. One of them is advanced care planning. Will help families work on a plan for their loved ones, or even themselves, of how would they like to die. A lot of times at end of life, family members don't really know how their loved one wanted to pass. Maybe they wanted special music played, or just there's a lot of areas that we go over with the family, but the primary thing is to set up somebody who can speak for you in a situation where you may not be able to answer your own medical questions. So we do that. We offer respite care. We expanded about 5 years ago, and respite care is more of a caregiver break. Maybe you care for someone in your home setting, a mom or dad, grandma or grandpa. That becomes a 24-hour job, and you need or you would like to take a break, go on vacation, family members getting married, something like that. So you could bring your loved one up to Omega House if they meet certain requirements, and we would take care of them for the time that you're gone. And the other program that we do is grief education and support. That's been going on for about 4 years now, and it's been, it's open to the entire community. Just like all of these programs are open to the community at no cost to the family. So other than respite care, but the grief education and the ACP is all free. So we do a lot of other programs in addition to our hospice care here. Over the years, like I said, we started with 6 rooms. We realized rather quickly, about 3 years later, that we could use another room. And when we had the foresight to know when we were putting up the home that we would have room for expansion. So right away we turned one of our rooms into room 7 for our hospice care, and then, like I said, 5 years ago we added room 8 for respite care, and we've kind of been that way now for a while. We are getting ready to start conversations about what is the next step for Omega House. We have had some of our busiest times in the last couple of years. In fact, last year was our second busiest ever. Whatever the reasons are, we think it may be more related to a COVID thing, and not necessarily that there's a lot more hospice people here. But we do know from surveys that we've done in the past that in another 5 years or so, there's going to be a bubble of baby boomers that are coming in to become, turning 75, 80, and going to be needing hospice care. So we want to be prepared for that. What does that mean for us? I guess that means that, we'll probably knock down a wall and add 2 or 4 rooms down the road. That's a costly venture. When we put up the home, like I said, it was, I think, $1.2 million to put the home up. Those costs now to just put up half the size of this house would be, we know it'll have a big price tag to it. So that would go along in, funding the house. How do we run it? We have to be careful that we don't go too big. We have, a budget. We are currently sitting at about a $700,000 budget that we run here every year. We're paying a lot more for a lot of things these days. So we actually operate our facility on 2 forms of revenue. Basically, what patients pay when they come here, and the other section would be, about 50% of our operating costs are funded by community donations. And, so we do several publications a year, and, our annual fall appeal at the end of the year is normally the largest donations that we see that usually run the house for the following year. So when we talk about costs for Omega House, we are in an adult foster care home. We are not Medicare certified, so we don't accept Medicare. We don't accept third-party insurances. It's all private pay, but it's based on income. Whatever the resident that is staying here makes, it's all on a sliding scale. Most people, right now our fee scale is set up that you would pay anywhere from $26 a day up to our full cost of $295. Most people fall probably in the middle or even less than that, is what our records show. So we don't turn anyone away for financial reasons. We will find a rate that works for the family, that's affordable, and that's how we kind of run with that.
My name is Michael Lutz. I'm the first ever executive director for Omega House. Our primary mission at Omega House is to care for the terminally ill, and we've been doing that now for about 12 years, since 2005. What we do here is we provide all the comforts of home for the individual to have a quality of life in their remaining days. So Omega House is an 8-bed facility. All the rooms are private, they have half baths, and from the moment that you walk in to Omega House, it's very quiet, very bright. There's the smell of fresh bakery or breakfast cooking, and it really makes you feel like you're at home. What we want to do is to make you feel as comfortable as we can, and we do that through providing you all the services that you need when you come to our home. So back in the late 90s, a group of individuals came together. Many of them felt that there was a need in our community for a home for individuals that maybe weren't ready for a nursing home and wanted to come to a different type of facility. Many people think that Omega House is a hospice home. And technically, we're an adult foster care home. We're licensed with the state of Michigan as a 7 to 12 bed adult foster care home. And a lot of questions come up: who pays for hospice care? Well, Omega House does not receive any reimbursement from Medicare, Medicaid, third-party insurances in general. The care here is paid for by the individual or the family, but it's based on a sliding fee scale. So if you make very little, you pay very little. And what we found over the history of Omega House in looking at things is that the average amount that a resident will pay to stay at Omega House per day is less than half the cost to care for someone. So that other half is generally made up through donations from our generous community and fundraising events. We put on several events a year, and those events help supplement the difference for those individuals that can't afford to pay the full rate at Omega House. Should you be given the diagnosis that you have a terminal illness and you've been enrolled in a hospice program, Omega House becomes an option for you. A lot of times the family will try to care for the individual at home, but find out that it's a pretty involved job. It's a 24-hour responsibility, and the burden and the stress that comes about is why individuals will select Omega House. It has a feeling of home.
All right, so we are also, because we were talking a little bit about the funding, we do a lot of fundraising events here. Not as many in the last couple of years, but we try to do two major fundraisers. One would be our annual golf outing that happens in June. This year will be the 20th year that we've done that, so we're trying to plan something special for that. And we always have done a fall concert. Well, we've done a summer and a fall, but the fall concert is more on a larger scale. We do that this year. It looks like we'll do it again at the Calumet Theater, and we really, we bring in a tribute act of some sort, and we've done really well with that. So who helps us with the fundraising? My staff helps me out. We're staffed full-time, by the way, around the clock. We hire RNs, we have LPNs, we have certified nursing assistants, and they all work together with the help of our volunteers. We have a good volunteer base of folks that come in at a regular scheduled time. Some folks come in periodically. We have volunteers that work inside the house and some that work outside the house, mostly on moving snow or cutting grass. So some of those people help me with my fundraisers, the planning. The actual day of the event is quite hectic, and volunteerism is very important to us. We're always looking for new volunteers. Last year, volunteers contributed about 1,500 hours for us. So it's a good significant, expense relief for us. And if anyone is interested in volunteering, we do have a volunteer coordinator here named Shelby. So you just call the office and we'll get her in touch with you.
Great. Yeah. And I had a couple of questions about services that you mentioned you offer to the community earlier, advanced planning. So how much time would a family expect to spend if they were to set up an appointment and come meet with you to go through that process?
Yeah, probably not long at all. 30 minutes, give it an hour. We have a pamphlet called 5 Wishes, and it's a step-by-step process that we'll sit down with you and go over that, kind of give you the steps, and you take it home with you. And we hope that you would involve your entire family with some of those major decisions. And So, and you just fill it out, you sign it, have a witness sign it, and you bring it back to us. Or you don't really even need to bring it to us. I guess you would just want to give it to all your family members, give it to the physician, give it to people who are going to want this information when it's needed. So keep it in a safe spot.
Yeah, so that sounds like very well spent time that could make things much easier and more comfortable when that time does come.
Yep.
And then you mentioned grief support. How often and when do they meet?
We have grief support every third Thursday of the month from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Generally, that's done right here at Omega House. The last couple of meetings have been via Zoom, and I think we're going to be, just keeping a hybrid of either Zoom or in person. So that's a group setting. We usually see 8 to 12 people show up for that each month. So if you're not comfortable with a group setting, we will also meet with you one-on-one in that type of setting. And again, there's no cost to any of these programs like this. So, yeah.
Well, great. Thanks so much, Mike. That's great information, and we so much appreciate what Omega House means to our local community.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.